You are listening to the Barely Audible podcast. Welcome to the Barely Audible podcast. I am your host, Justin Romine, joined by my esteemed colleague and co-host Bears. Today, we have a very special guest, Tony Ferguson, all the way from the UK. He's a paranormal investigator and ghost whisperer. Welcome, Tony.
Hey guys, how you doing? You all right?
We're great. Thank you for joining us.
No worries.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of jump into it. How did you get started into paranormal investigating?
It started as a child. I had a few childhood experiences, and it was in my granddad's house, seeing a figure. As I got older, etc., I just felt like I needed to look more into it. Is it the imagination? As a child, you know, they always say it could be a child's imagination. And, it's just a case of, I thought, well, I want to go and see if there's any truth in what I actually experienced, because it was quite regularly. I've got quite a skeptical brain when it comes to certain things, because obviously with a lot of devices in the paranormal, they can be easily manipulated. So I don't tend to use devices, etc. So I've gone in an approach of just myself with a camera in haunted locations and just documenting disembodied voices, things that can't be explained. And I've managed to capture a few apparitions along the way with the general public, with skeptics, non-believers, etc. It's just been a fantastic journey.
Great. And how old were you when it started?
It must have started probably when I was about 3 or 4 years old, when I first started seeing the gentleman when I used to go and take to my nan's house. I regularly cried when I used to go around there. And they never knew why. They always thought it was because I didn't like my nan, but it was because the figure used to appear literally through a wall and just walk off quite often. And it was probably several occasions that happened until we moved away.
So what are your kind of thoughts on, ghosts and how are they still in our realm? Do you kind of have an idea of how you think they kind of are able to communicate with us? I'm just kind of curious how that kind of feels to you.
Well, from what I've learned over the years, it's all about energy. Now, I have ADHD. I have a very, very high energy. And if I walk into a building, it's like you'll feel that presence. If you've got a bunch of people that with high energy, then that's going to create something. Especially if your energy is putting into something. Now, for instance, when we go into haunted locations, you don't know what you're going to encounter. I believe there's good and bad, yin and yang, as there is in the living. It's the same principle in the afterlife. So how it happens, there's a stone tape theory where they believe that the trauma stays within the walls. So again, that's building up a lot of negative energy. So that could also create negative forces. So it's not necessarily spirit. I don't always think it is, because it's like when you meet someone on the street, I don't like the vibes of that person. I feel the same when I'm on investigations. And I always say to people, when you feel like that, use that phrase on that investigation, because that's not good. Because obviously, if you didn't feel like that when you met someone on the street, you'd avoid them, because you don't feel, their vibes are not good at all. It's the same principle with the paranormal side of things, and we managed to capture a lot of disembodied voices in locations that it's impossible. We've done nuclear bunkers, where basically we're hearing children. Now, you're not going to hear children underground in a nuclear bunker at 1 a.m. in the morning. We've done Wookiee Hole Caves with a parapsychologist, where we were locked down there with him and just myself and 2 other people. And we walked around with him. And I said, is there any possible way of hearing the living in these caves underground? Nope. Went down there, documenting children's voices yet again, and disembodied voices of male saying, get out. So there's things that you've got to try and experiment as an investigator, I think. Stay away from the device if you can, and just go naturally, like old school, like they used to do with the ancestors. Use tools of like yourself listening, locked off cameras, and you'll be amazed at what you capture. Even sometimes when you're just talking and you're in a haunted building and just leave locked off cameras, you'll hear disembodied voices in and along with yourself. And that's not even a case of investigating, it's just natural. So it's just a case of just bringing back the old school days of just yourself, camera, and, relying on yourself to be the device.
I've noticed, so electromagnetic fields are a very real thing. And I know that's associated with, spirits and energy and stuff like that, but it's also kind of scientifically, if you have a large amount of that in an area, even if it's just coming from poor electric, work in a house, it's going to make somebody feel different. And so that is, scientific. And so I can see how energy can be transferred through the EMF fields as well. So do you search for EMF fields while you're investigating?
So K2 meters, it's one thing that they use in the actual paranormal for investigating. Now, a lot of people use it just because it goes off as a ghost. Now, that's one of the reasons why I say about devices. Really, they should be used as a baseline for what's going on in the building. So, for instance, if you've got too much energy, obviously electromagnetic field in that building, and that could affect someone's mental state. And again, they could start hallucinating, feeling, so you've got to sort of use the K2 meters as more of a baseline to see if it's high or low or it's normal. If it's normal, then it becomes more interesting of the haunting. Whereas if it's constantly high and it's above its level, then again, you've got to question, is that affecting the person?
Yeah, sure.
Tony, what are some of your motivations for continuing to hunt for disembodied spirits? I mean, we pretty much know everything in existence is energy and electricity of some type or another. And I would even venture to say that you, Tony, are a living, breathing EMF meter, and you probably were since you were a little child.
Mm.
Right. And there was something about you. Oh, there goes Justin in his infamous camera. Wave, everyone. Look at Justin. But so growing up, there must have been a point for you at which you said to yourself, I'm just a little bit different. The grown-ups aren't seeing this, and yet these disembodied spirits, and let's venture into the nature realm, even perhaps even fairies and other disembodied or etheric beings may have even made contact with you. So as a child, you're open to that. Did that realm seem natural to you at that point to traverse back and forth up until a certain age, maybe?
I think that's within all of us as a child, because I believe that once you stem from a child, you're so innocent and away from all the stress. And basically, they always say that these imaginary friends, it's amazing how many people recall it. And when you do this, you find out so many stories. I think that's within us all, but I think some people just keep that as they get older. And I'm quite a grounded person overall. I'm a nature boy. I'm outside at the beach all the time with my dogs, etc., with the forest. Always have been. And obviously I've got ADHD, so that's going to heighten a lot of things in my life in general, because obviously the energy, I need to burn it. So a lot of the time I'm doing it in the gym if I can. But even then I've got so much excess energy to burn. And I just think that's what helps. For me, I've done a test recently on an investigation, and I was going to do it before the pandemic, where I wanted to get a bunch of ADHD people together that were into the paranormal, just to see if it could heighten things even more, because obviously it was just an interesting theory for me. So there's a lot of aspects of why I still do it. I know there's something out there, and I know there's other things out there that are not so nice as well. So I'm not going to paper over the cracks and say it's all love and light, because it's not. I've seen too much to say otherwise and captured too much. There's a lot of nasty stuff, and I don't believe that theory that once you leave your physical body, you become this lovely person. I think you take your traits with you in the afterlife. So there's a lot of things that you listen to and you think you've got to find out for yourself. You can't just go by hearsay. You've got to go and find out for yourself.
Sure. I'd like to share an experience that I had. Before I lived in this house I'm at now, I lived about a mile down the road. My partner, Josephine, her family had that house for many years. So I don't want to say 50, 60 years or something like that. And we were living there, and the setup of the house was kind of interesting. So the front room that faced, we have a really busy street out front. So the front room is what we had as our living room. And in the middle, we had, there's kind of like a dining room, but in the corner, I had my own little office as well, with my computer set up and all of that. And so I was in there one day, and we would leave the front door open because that house is so old that it didn't have air conditioning. We have what we call a swamp cooler out here. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is.
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so we had that. And sometimes, it just kind of would get stuffy in the house, and I'd have that front door open with the swamp cooler running. And we would get kind of a crosswind going through there that kind of helped cool off the house. And so I was sitting at my desk, and I heard little girls giggling. Like, it wasn't just one, but like two. Mm-hmm. It sounded like two different voices giggling. As I got up and walked into the room, and as I stood in the doorway, the front door slammed shut. Mm. And like I said, I'm kind of a skeptic, so I just didn't really know what to make of it. And so I kind of just chalked it up to, maybe I'm hearing things and the door shut with crosswind going through the house or something like that. And it's a really heavy door too, so it would have taken some force to do. And so a couple days later, I was talking to Josephine's brothers, and they said that underneath the house, it's kind of like a crawl space underneath the house. They don't have basements out here for some reason in Albuquerque. I'm not sure why. I don't know if we're near fault lines or something like that, but so it's just kind of like a crawl space area. And her oldest brother told me that they were under there years ago and had found shoes of a little girl underneath there. Oh. And so I was like, wow. And then the brother told me he's had his own experiences in that house as well. And one of his experiences was somebody was pounding on the front door. And so he got up and went to the front door, and nobody was there. Of course. And so then a few minutes later, he heard it again and went and opened the door. And as he opened the door and looked out, one of his friends was pulling up in a car.
Yeah.
So that was both those were pretty interesting experiences, I'd say. I don't know if the ghost was warning him that somebody was coming or what, but that's something that I've experienced that kind of made me think, maybe there is something different out there.
I mean, what time of the year did that happen for you and for him? Because again, that will be the question. Is it something that happened at the same time of the year, or was it something, did you?
I'm not sure when it happened for him, but for me, it was in the summertime.
See, that's a question you should ask, because again, that's where the stone tape theory might kick in. You might be seeing a play there, a similar thing, but you've experienced it, because again, the fact that you've heard children, etc., in the door, that could be the stone tape theory there, where you're sort of time replaying yourself kind of thing. So that if you ask him and see if that matches up, that could be some interesting sort of equation there, that there's two stories that match the same sort of dates or around that same time.
Yeah, I'll ask him for sure. Bears, have you had any experiences?
Yeah, plenty. My whole life's been nothing but paranormal. I have pre-birth memories of choosing my birth host. But I had a question for Tony. Tony, so after we've established that disembodied spirits truly do exist, what's the next step, man? Like, where do we go from here? What's the next level? Because at this point, we've established there are various spirits, or there are various phenomena that are either masking as spirits or actually are spirits. So where do we go from here? Because at this point, at this level, it's just sort of ho-hum. It's become part of the furniture almost, right? Is there a next level that you're looking at taking it to keep it interesting?
Yeah, I mean, for me, because it's taken such a long time for humanity to wake up on a lot of things, and because of, I think, social media's brought people together in a sense of they've been sharing their stories now, whereas before it was just a case of people were too scared to say it. So that journey for me is the case. I'm still going to continue that, but I'm looking into the aspects now of the afterlife in the sense of why are they here? The light, as in what they call the tunnel of light. Because there's a lot of people out there that say, yay, it's good. But yay, it could be a trap. Reincarnation as well. Some might say, why would you want to come back here? Because obviously it's quite a cruel planet at times. There's that side to it. And there's also the side of asking whoever's actually, when I'm communicating with these spirits, I ask the questions that are a bit out of the box. Is this a matrix? Who created this? And what do they know that we don't know? Why are they here? Are they trying to warn us about something? I've noticed since the pandemic that the activity is heightened so much to the point where it's crazy. And I think that a lot of that is fear-based. Because since then, there's been a lot of fear-mongering with a lot of things, over in the UK especially. I'm pretty sure it is over the world. And I've noticed that's heightened a lot of more things on the other side. And I do believe that's either them warning us, or it's a case of the fear is heightened things in general.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting way to look at it. And yeah, the afterlife has always interests me because, what do we do when we die, or what happens when we die? And it's, most people, unless they've had a near-death experience, there's not really any proof one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, there's hardly any proof of them living presently in their bodies. I mean, look at most people; they're anesthetized on television, plagued with various diseases from continuously being sprayed like cockroaches and from chemtrails. Look at the food they're eating, especially in America, right? Mick everything. So, it's amazing that there's even a percentage of people out there who have this particular difference of energy on their radar. And because of people like Tony and those of us, Justin, who want to go out and kind of experience it for ourselves, right, Tony? To prove either way if it exists or doesn't exist, or what's it like in relationship to us and our past experiences, starting as a child, growing up even. And I think all of us know there's more to this existence than getting up, going to work, following an alarm clock, amassing wealth for other people. I mean, we've got to get off the treadmill and start asking why. And thankfully, these past few, like maybe in the last 30 years, all these wonderful new generations coming up. I'm Gen X, of course. So, probably start with my generation and a couple before, and certainly with the newer people. We're asking why. Why do we have to do this? Why is it like this? So we're starting to question and ask questions that have actual meaning to them that can be life-changing and profound. And obviously there's more to it, and I'm sure Tony's gotten some interesting messages, in his explorations and investigations. And I'm going off on a tangent here again like I usually do, So jump in at any time, folks.
No, I was just about to say, when you look at life as a whole, and this is one of the reasons why with I do a lot of military bases. I've done a lot of undercover ones as well, and PTSD is a well-known thing, obviously, with military bases, and some of the things that you capture there and stuff. And when you think about life as a whole, it's quite cruel. Like you said, you're a 9-to-5 slave. You work to live, and this is one of the reasons why I would say about the light trap, because they always say that they send you to the light. This is what the theory out there, and then they you go through like a stage of karma, and it's a case of like they take you through your bits, probably your worst bits, and say you got to come back and do it again, but they're going to wipe your memory. And that's one of the things that I can't get over, the whole spiritual side of things, because if they're going to wipe your memory, you ain't going to remember that, and you're going to come back and do the same thing again and again and again. And even down to the fact what they say about contracts, that you signed a contract to come back here and agree to this. I don't think any child that gets raped will want to agree to that at all. So I don't think the people that live in these poor countries that have nothing to eat on and live in horrid conditions would want to come back to that. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes I don't believe. So I go off my own theories and do my own research. I don't follow the crowd and say I'm not, and have that sheep mentality of like, I've got to watch this because this is going to give me the info. The info's got to come from in there, and you've got to do it yourself. And when it feels right, you know it's right. If it isn't, then you've got to go and keep searching. And I think that's what makes it more interesting. And then you'll still find out more and keep going, but it's better than just sitting there and going, is this it? And accepting it, because I'd rather learn, and you are here to learn, in my opinion. I'd rather go out there and learn and search for myself and know my own truth, rather than watching a YouTube channel that says, this is how it is, and that's all there is. So there's a lot more that you just got to do with your inner self to search for that.
And that's exactly what I love about the UK, Justin. Tony just quintessentially summed it all up, the whole DIY thing. So it's awesome. And then we need to learn that over here too.
I don't think in the UK it's a mixed bag over here. I think it is everywhere, because obviously with social media, in a sense, it's like everybody wants the answers and everybody wants the easy way out, and they do. And unfortunately, it's not a case of you're just going to watch a video and it's going to change your life. It's got to be done within yourself, and and it's the people you're around as well, because some people are here to hinder and stop you from that journey, and you don't realize it. And it's just to keep you away from that path. And you get a lot of people that try and sort of shy you away from a certain subject, etc. But at the end of the day, there's a reason for that. So you just got to know your own truth. And everywhere in the world at the moment, it's like you said, there's being brainwashed with fear, and all the news is toxic. They may as well call it bad news. It's not news. It's because in the back in the day, when I was a kid, they used to put some good stuff up there. But now it's just literally boom, 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 to keep everybody on the low vibration and away from, from knowing the truth and trying to look for the truth.
The Buddhists kind of believe if you're a human, you kind of screwed up in your past life, and and you're kind of in that perpetual cycle of becoming a human again. Because if you're going to be reincarnated, you don't really want to be a human. They want, the Buddhists look at, maybe a bird or a horse or something like that. So you're talking about, the afterlife and going through, as Bears was saying, going through the treadmill, just kind of living, working, and just kind of living to work. And that, what incentive is there? And the Buddhists think, maybe they can come back as a worm or a bird or a horse or something like that. And so if you work hard to be a good person, a good, compassionate person, you will not be reincarnated as a person. I find that interesting.
Yeah, for me, the whole reincarnation thing is just a case of, even for any animal that comes down here, it's, they say nature's beautiful, but then if you live out there and you spend a lot of time, it's not really, because everything's consuming itself, everything's there to survive. It's quite horrific when you look at it, and no matter how much it looks beautiful, but if you look deep down within it, then you realize it's not. It's just a case of everything is basically here to destroy itself. And for me, I just look at it and think there's got to be more than that. There has to be. With even the reincarnation side of things, if that's the cell to come back here and, like you said, to do the slave trade, the 9 to 5, and relive the same story, because everyone's going to do it, because it might be just in a different place, but it's the same scenario because it's a system, and the system will never change. So therefore, you just want to go back to the system. So for me, it's a case of you've got to look at it and think, well, there's got to be more out there. Is this a trap? Maybe.
Tony, in your experience, have you developed any theories around extraterrestrial participation in your travels or in your investigations? Do you think there's extraterrestrial component to all of this, either energy harvesting or manipulation and control of?
I believe that I've caught things that I would say is not human on camera, disembodied voices. The capture that I showed you guys at the prism that hit out of nowhere. Now, a lot of people says it looks like a grey alien if you look at it, because of the shape of its head and the size of it. And when we actually heard, when we were there at the time, we heard something land on the roof, and we actually said that at the time, but we just ignored it. And we did it like they were doing a seance down below. I never take part in stuff like that. And I said straight away, the energy here does not feel right. It's the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
That apparition appears out of nowhere and walks off. the guy drops to the ground in agony. He said he felt like his body was being electrocuted. So, and we had to drag him out of the building because it got really intense. And we didn't even notice the apparition appeared at the time. But yeah, 2 minutes before that, I said it's the calm before the storm. You know, it's about to kick off, you know, and literally that happened. And I've caught disembodied voices that I would say are not human. Would I say it's from another planet, maybe talking to us, possibly? It doesn't sound human to me. It doesn't feel it, etc. There could be different dimensions that we're tuning in into, except for portals. Again, if you're a strong energy, how do you know you can't open a portal without doing it? And these things are coming in to give us information. So there's a lot to it that I've looked into. You have to, otherwise, if I didn't do this and record it, a lot of people would say I was crazy and I was hearing voices in his head. And I always say, are those people really hearing voices in their head? Or they're experiencing it? And these people are just trying to shut it up, keep it quiet, give us some medication, and dumb them down again because it's not supposed to be heard or supposed to be talked about. So there's that side to it as well. You know, and if that is the case, I feel sorry for those people do experience that, because, you know, that could ruin someone's life. They could just think, yeah, I'm crazy. That's it. You know, just take my tablets and just keep myself locked away from the world. When really it's a gift. And it is a gift. And there's a lot of people that do have it, but are too scared to go and show it.
Well, that's an interesting point also. I mean, you have to also ask yourself, why many decades ago did they allow fluoride in the drinking water here in America, for Christ's sakes? Fluoride, a byproduct. It's a hazardous waste. You can't even dump a bag of fluoride into the environment. You'll be arrested for crimes against humanity. I mean, why are we adding fluoride, something that's going to dumb down the population? And then yeah, of course, the pineal gland obviously calcify it. Yes, of course. So there's been a systematic squelching of information for perhaps millennia. But what are they really afraid of, and what are they hiding? What is it that's the birthright of humankind? What are they keeping from each and every one of us on this planet, and why?
Well, I can quickly go into that. Like I said, I believe, my personal theory is that everyone's got a stronger power than what they believe. Because again, if you've got to dumb someone down and hide stuff from someone, then there's got to be something in it to be hid. This is why you've got to question up and down. You know, down below is up above kind of thing. If it's a system, then can you trust the system? Like you can trust your governments and all that. How do you know there's not a system going on up there as well? And it's been sold down here. You've got to sort of look at it and think, right, that's not going to be your savior just because once you leave here and that's it. It's only come out recently, the last decade or so, or 100 years, etc., that there, to a lot of people, and even people now don't believe it, there's an afterlife, but they're talking more about it now because we're at that stage where they can't hide it. So they're sort of like, yep, just going along with it. But the thing is, it's the next stage, isn't it? Like you said, where's the next stage? You've got to look above that. You know, once you realise there's something else, then you've got to look to the next stage after that. So it's just a case of, you'll never stop searching for the truth because there's so many lies, and history lies as well. A lot of it's been told to us, again, just to make us just go along with it. But yet again, science is another thing to lots of answer for, because science is actually slowing things down for us, because us as evolving as people, we've got these gifts that we're not using. We're relying too much on science. And like I said, with the pandemic, trust the science. That didn't go very well, did it? So there's a lot of things that they sell you these dreams, but unfortunately the reality isn't what it is. It's, again, it is a dream, and it's a dream that's basically just being sold to you just to keep you quiet, keep you going along with your daily life and accepting, you know, and you've got to appreciate this and go along with it.
And you always have to ask yourself, who does it benefit to oppress humankind? And how does it benefit them, right? That's a big question.
As I said to you earlier on, I mentioned about the pandemic. When it all kicked off then, things heightened. So fear is energy, anger, emotions. So again, are we a source for whatever's created this in order to sort of like feed it? You know, and they feed off all these stuff. Yeah, they can give us all the food we want down here, but even if you look at that, of how we actually have food source is quite cruel. It's barbaric. That's another story. But, you know, fear is obviously a good way of looking at it, because why do they pump so much of it out there? If there was nothing in it, then why is there no neutral ground with it? Why isn't there positive if you look at it, wherever you go in the world, UK, United States, your news, etc., you know, you're not getting told any good stuff. You know, it's not nothing that, when you watch that, that's your start of your day. That's ruined your day.
Right. Pushes those emotional hot buttons to a predictable emotional state.
Yep.
And people go around all uptight over, you know, who their government told them to be afraid of that particular week or that particular day, banging the war drums like right now, right? Look, let's face it, this planet doesn't need any more war. We're tired of it. The everyday common people, we don't want another war. We don't want to fight with Russia. We don't want to fight with Ukraine. I mean, me in particular, I don't have any enemies to my knowledge, you know, and I don't dislike anyone. I'm sure Justin doesn't, and perhaps Tony. So we as common, everyday, ordinary people, which there isn't any such thing really as a common, everyday, ordinary person. We're all extraordinary and unique in our own ways. We just have to learn, right, Justin, not to follow the fear or to get caught up or wrapped up in the fear, right, Tony? Because if we cut off the food source, we begin to take back our own sovereignty. What's the antidote to fear? And does anyone here know?
Well, for me, it's a case of I don't fear nothing. So I look at everything as, I don't take life. And I always say this to everyone. When you walk into a room in a one location, now I said, do you scared when you hear these voices? No, because they know I know them there because I'm calling their voices out. And if you walk into that, you feed that. You walk into it with the fact that, yeah, there might be something, there might not. It's a dark room, but I'm going to walk down that dark room on my own, etc. And again, it's a case of, fear's just a word, and it is, but at the same point, it's again a case of like, if they keep throwing these things into you day in, day out, that's going to drain your life battery. And that's why people... So again, that shows that we've got energy, because people say, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted of this world. No, you're exhausted of consuming what you've been told, what's being said, because I always say to people, spend a week not listening to the news and see how you feel. I did a live stream on this recently and stuff, because I don't watch the news at all, because it's not real. It's, again, most of it's overreacted. But if you spend a week or two away from it and then go back to it, you'll be like, wow, it's amazing. So it's just stepping outside your own comfort zone, pulling away from stuff that doesn't really matter. Because like you said, wars, what does it bring? We're just killing each other. We're destroying the earth, animals, and yet we've been doing this for centuries. Now, I'm going to go back to the theory of the reincarnation thing. How are we learning if we keep coming back and doing the same thing? If they're saying we're going to come back and do this, we're still fighting against each other. So something's not happening. Something's not right there. And is it a case of, are they feeding off that energy of like people killing each other and then the trauma and the PTSD that these soldiers go through and stuff, and the trauma of that? You know, it's just all sort of negative when you look at it on that side of things. Nothing good comes of it. Nothing at all.
Well, here's an idea. What if it's not a systematic and deliberate attempt at creating misery and control in the population? What if it's just built into the matrix, into the overall plan for evolution, and perhaps some parasitic beings have taken advantage of that too, right? You know, and we keep coming back until the lessons are learned. I mean, look in your personal life at, you know, various relationships. You go through triggers, maybe some self-sabotage, and, you know, we have to all do our shadow work, and we keep re-experiencing maybe similar or certain situations until we decide we're gonna break that cycle. We're becoming more aware of why we're reacting a certain way or being defensive in a relationship, for instance, and perhaps maybe that's what the larger essence of life is really about. And until we, as a species, decide that, you know, we're tired of living like we have for the past 500, 1,000 years, where we're going to take it to the next level. We're going to open our hearts. We're not going to be so controlled by the controllers, as it were, who control the fear machine and the news apparatus. And I think we are right now begin to say no to that and choosing another option. You know, it's not necessarily about, it's not about eradicating one part of duality or another, because once you start to do that, you know, one side of the populace is going to start to become frightened that, oh, all of a sudden I'm not valid, or I'm not valued or something, right?
Yeah.
What if it's about reconciling duality within ourselves, so we see the oneness that, even quantum physics says that we're all connected, right? So perhaps there's some truth to that we're all part of this one being who's learning more about itself through these individualizations.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I always say do the groundwork here, first of all. I mean, for me, since 2012, that was my big awakening with life in general. Just started to look at things differently and just thought, this doesn't add up. Well, I never felt like I fitted in as a child. Never really liked school. And I always hear the same people that follow the same path. But then school, again, you're at school, you're being educated, you're being taught the same thing. So again, that's manipulation, isn't it? So, but yet with my ADHD, that never sunk in. So I avoided school at all costs because I just didn't get it. As I got older, 2012, I started to question everything. I just thought, this doesn't make any sense. Anything. I was looking around at people thinking, how can you just accept this? This is life, etc. And yes, you have kids and stuff, and that distracts you, and you get married or whatever, and that distracts you. So you got no time to think. I had a lot of time to think, and I think that's a lot the problem with a lot of people. When you have time to think, and that's when you start to think, hang on a minute. But some people are too scared to have that time, and too scared to sort of come out of their comfort zone and think, actually none of this actually makes any sense. And that's why I say do the groundwork first, and then look into the next layer and the next layer, and then and that's my whole theory of it. I've got so many theories of what could be, and that could be like take up a whole show. But the difference is they're just theories, and it's, there's no proof of it. But you've got to look at all angles. And but like you said with the paranormal, you've got to be skeptical. Well, you've got to be skeptical about life and question everything.
So tell me, are you're obviously familiar with David Icke?
I've watched a few videos of him in the past. Again, he was always known as a bit of a crazy man back in the day, from what I know in England.
Yeah.
There's a lot of theories that I do agree with him about, and a lot I don't. He's just, I don't know, he's one of those that he's highlighted a lot of truth, and it's taken a lot of time for him to do it. But at the same point, there's a lot of people that sort of, again, I know he's putting out the same sort of stuff. And I don't want to do that. I want more proof, evidence kind of thing. So I've had a cold all weekend, to bear with me.
So how can people in your experience, maybe someone listening at home saying, gosh, I'd like to go out there and try this for myself, but I don't have the equipment, or I don't know if I'm capable of it, smart enough to do it, or I just need some inspiration or just a little bit of encouragement. How can the average everyday person who's listened to this podcast begin to set off on the path of, finding out for themselves and looking for the truth?
Everyone's different. It depends on the situation. For me, it was paranormal investigating, ghost hunting, and document it on camera, and that's what really sort of made me question life, because obviously I didn't understand why they're still here. Obviously, in general, with the whole paranormal aspect of the dream they sell you, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just think you just got to go. It's got to be within the person. You've got to feel like you've got to do it. You can't force someone to do it. If they're not going to waken up, there's a reason why. Everyone's got a limit in life. Or they've got like a button that's being pushed to say, right, it's time to wake up now, kind of thing.
Excellent advice. Justin, when was your latest ghost experience or paranormal experience?
That would have been a few years ago at the house that I just explained. Yeah, I talked about a little while ago. And so that was probably 5 to 8 years ago, somewhere around there. And and nothing really since. Tony, I'm interested in either an experience you had while ghost hunting, or even something that maybe just came to you, or even something that you captured and found later on going through your footage. What has scared you the most?
I think what happened to Adam at Shetland Prison, the ghost capture I told you about, where it just appeared out and then walked off. So obviously he got affected. I was more concerned, not rather than scared for him. I've never been scared of anything like cool because I've been aware that it's there kind of thing. So I can't be scared. I know it's there.
Right. So then, as you're experiencing these things, is it kind of like a building block thing for each experience kind of builds on the past and building up to where you have now felt more comfortable being in that situation, and being aware? How do you kind of approach an investigation now?
Well, it's just me, some cameras, asking questions that I would talk to you guys about. You know, it's just asking questions that are relevant to them.
Yeah.
So, Tony, what's you went out on an investigation, and perhaps they've all been rather, run of the mill. But what sticks out in your mind, the absolute most, where you came away transformed, and you didn't think from this investigation that would have been possible, and how has it changed your life?
The Bob and Gerald ghost that I caught was quite interesting because the lights went off in the basement area, and we went upstairs to go and talk to the manager about it, and said that they've gone out and it's 3 floors to it, and they said that that's impossible because 2nd floor, 3rd floor on, basement off. So we've gone back down to go and debunk it and recreate it and see if we can look for anything switches. Nothing. We left the camera down, lying down as we always do. As we're talking, there's a monk in a monk figure just walking straight past. Now, Bob and Joe got CCTV facing all corridors. They've checked their CCTV because they get so many claims saying that they've got some paranormal activity, and they like to poo-poo a lot of it because one of the guys said he was a bit of a debunker, and I think she studied parapsychology as well. And they've looked back on the CCTV to confirm there's no living person down there. Now, for me, well, I didn't see anything, but obviously there was. And apparently it was the last day, this is what I said about residual hauntings, of the hanging of William Hampton. I read out his plaque with William on that day where I actually said that, William, you hit and the lights went out. Now, I didn't know that. This is the first time visiting that place. And then obviously I've captured that figure going past. And apparently where the figure was caught, that was the way to the gallows. That was their last walk before they went to the gallows. Now, I wouldn't have known that either because obviously it's all brick wall. But before that, there was a pathway going upstairs up to the gallows for their hanging. So did I just enter a residual haunting there? Did I read out a plaque and the light went off? There's 2 things that I can't explain. And it's good because I've got the backup there of obviously Bob in jail to say, well, he came in. There's no living person down there. There was a man and a female. So, and the weird thing is about it, this is what I would say about not psychic abilities, about being intuitive in yourself. We watched the footage, didn't see the capture. Now, when I woke up 5 o'clock in the morning, just ran and watched that footage again. So I just want to see the lights go out and stuff. And I said to my missus, what's that there? When, that one there yesterday, she goes, oh yeah. So we didn't even see it. So something woke me up to say, you've caught something kind of thing. Go and check that footage again because I'm quite, with my ADHD side of things, I switch off quite easily. I'm on to another subject, as you might see now in general. But yeah, so it's stuff like that that's interesting. It's almost like fate. It was meant to be kind of thing. Yeah, I just thought that was quite interesting because there was 2 things that happened that can't be explained. So,
do you ever have clairvoyant dreams that help you in your investigations?
Having ADHD, I have many dreams. So I believe that obviously we work on hyper focus. It's like literally just you wake up exhausted from your dreams sometimes because you dream so much. But I seem to think and take in the dreams of matter. So I think there's a lot of things that help me with that. Obviously with investigations and stuff, and life as a whole, with the awakening side of things as well, and what's really going on. I think you have to. But then again, you've got that other side of your brain where it's trying to sort of stop you from going any further. And everyone has it. It's just you got to try and control it. And that's the biggest part of life, is learning how to control the mind and the brain. If you unlock a lot of that stuff, then you're there.
Because if you control your mind and your thoughts, no one else can do it for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And you won't be brainwashed by a lot of this stuff. You'll just see it for what it is. It's, you know, there was a film out in America. I can't think of it. He's a wrestler. Piper, Randy, is it Piper? He used to
Rowdy Piper, yeah.
Can't think of the name of the film, but if you type it, They Live, yeah. And he puts on these sunglasses, and I find it quite ironic. And it shows you about big pharma, etc., and what these signs really mean, etc. And you know,
yeah.
And that was brought out in the 80s and 90s, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's very, very apt to the way life is now. You know, take off the sunglasses, and see what things really are. And it's amazing. You know, that everyone's got it. That's what I call the dumbing down part. Take away that and look around really, and you'll see things for what they really are.
Yeah, that movie was way ahead of its time. It was in the 80s, directed by John Carpenter, the guy that brought us Halloween. That kind of was scary to me. I mean, the movie itself isn't, scary, but when you think kind of about the statement that Carpenter was trying to make, certainly, yeah, because you put on the glasses and you could see the aliens, and then, the billboards say consume, and stuff like that. So, yeah, that certainly was ahead of its time, and now we're kind of seeing it now.
Play out.
Yeah. And so, Tony, so you usually just kind of set up a location and go and check it out. Sometimes if they have history or something like that. Do you also are you also asked to visit a residence where maybe there's some stuff going on that's affecting the family? Do you go in and kind of try and help these people, with their experiences? Because I know with children, they're a lot more sensitive to seeing and feeling things.
Yeah. I mean, for me at the moment, it's been more about documenting all the locations throughout the UK. I've only ever done one where basically there was a lady that went into this. She said she was a paranormal investigator. She came in with a load of apps, with a load of words, and then she said they told her that she had a demon in the house. So I straight away, and it was an elderly lady that lived in a residential place for for people that are vulnerable. And when I heard that, I was like, what is that? Why would you go and say that from an app? Because this is one of the things that's destroying the paranormal, a lot of devices and stuff. And so I went there to go and check out her place because she was getting touched on the back quite a lot. Now this again, this is what I said about finding out about the story, how it builds. So we went to go and see her, visit her, and said, what's going on, etc. And she said, well, I believe I've got a demon in my house. I was like, okay. I said, well, I can tell you straight away, no, you haven't. Because I would know if you had something negative in there and you haven't. So I went in the room where it all happened, started recording. So it was just me and her in there, etc. And I was getting her to ask some questions. We caught a male voice. And again, I said, don't tell me anything about the information. I don't want to know who, what, where. Let's just see what we get. And so we caught a male voice there a couple of times, and we replayed it back to her on this is a private thing we did on our own. I wouldn't share that sort of stuff online because it's personal. And it was her husband stroking on the back, and she didn't believe in the afterlife, etc., until she had that. She recognised the voice straight off. And then the next thing she told us is that she's going for an operation in a couple of days, and she's really worried about it. And this is after the investigation. I was like, oh, really? I said, you didn't say anything about it the other day. She said, oh, no. She was like, I've been worried for ages. I said, well, do you know what? I said, there's why your husband's stroking in the back. It's comfort. What would he do if he was living? He'd be giving you comfort. So I said, then, and you've heard his voice. If you'd have told me that the other day, I would have told you straight away. That's not demonic. That's just so, demonic's a completely different story. And half that's, because of what TV puts out there. It's people, relate it to be more worse than what it is. But yeah, so, I've done one of them before, and maybe in the future, once, I've gone on my little quest. But at the moment, I've got so much going on, and so many places that I want to go and visit. But obviously, if there's people in need and they get in touch with that, yeah, I'd do it, without a doubt, because that to me was wrong. But I was sort of put in that situation to go and make that right, if that makes sense.
That's beautiful, actually. Tony, what do you do for fun besides hunt for ghosts?
go to the gym, take my dogs for a walk, spend most of my time on the beach in nature. Yeah, I'm just one of those that literally, they always say your house, your home. My house is outside. You know, I like to spend a lot of time outdoors. So, and my place here is just to sleep sometimes and get my head down. You know, I don't really watch too much TV. Mainstream TV is a no-no. I watch what I want to consume and what's going to make sense to me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I live in several states at once, it seems. And I spend a lot of time in Oregon at the beach myself in a town called Gold Beach. And in my last abode where I lived in this apartment, it was I lived in an old motel, but there was this great apartment attached to the motel. And man, that place was haunted like you can't believe. I saw my cell phone being pulled off the mantle frequently, all by itself. And it just felt like there were, well, you know, being at the beach, number one, it's the conditions are right. Electronically and magnetically, it seems that it just draws more spirit activity, right? You know, so beach towns are going to be more haunted.
Well, energy can convert water, etc. So it's going to be a case of any streams you buy, anything like that. You know, if you switch off, like in nature, sometimes it's amazing what you can hear, even outdoors. Like I've done a few forests, and you know, places like that, or places log cabins were out there, and I believe there's stuff out there everywhere. I don't just believe these buildings are just, you know, the activity. I just believe we just got to switch off from this reality and hear it, kind of thing.
One of the videos you sent us was of a cat meowing on the background. Did you hear that, or was that captured later on when you were doing the footage?
So 9 times out of 10, if I call out a disembodied voice, it will come out on camera. So that was one of the reports of the actual hauntings of the Aged Ramen, a cat, and it was buried in the walls there. So obviously I heard it in real time, and I just carried on, because I felt like at the time someone was being hung there, like someone was sort of like, not around your throat. It was weird to describe, because obviously I've never done that, etc. But we were trying to find out what was going on there, and I had a which is weird at the time, and I was like, and then went like a meow. At the time I was like, well, there's a cat there. But with me, it's so natural now. It's a case of I just say it and carry on. Whereas a lot of people go, oh my God, it's a cat. Because I am in the moment of like investigating. I let the camera do the work for me. I mean, we've done an investigation for the military, like it was a charity event. And the guy was a non-believer and stuff. And, we basically got to go down into the actual fort to go and call out stuff, and right by his ear, and if this is all caught on camera, we asked him to ask some questions, and he said, is there anyone here that served me in the military? And there's a voice going, yeah. Now, we had several people in the public that were with us that he was right in the back on his own that heard it. He turned around, he's like, that was right by my ear. There's no one there. This is one of the reasons why I locked off cameras. And he was like, it's behind me, and it freaked him out. And this was cool on 3 occasions with him. Now, when he walked out of there, he was gobsmacked. He didn't believe in any of this. But because he was actually in the military and he was in the fort, they would talk to him. Whereas people like myself or anyone else that goes in there, you get outs a lot because you're not welcome down there. It's military only. So it was an interesting experiment, and it's stuff like that I love, because over the years I've done this now, especially the last 3-4 years, I've worked with the public. And I've given so many people an experience that I've never forgotten. And even down to that ghost capture, Shatter Mallet, you know, you've got 12, 13 people there that were there, and they know that there was no one there. And things don't just appear out of nowhere and walk off. That's physically not possible. And with other captures I've called disembodied voices, and people were hearing it, you know, and they know that we're locked in this location, and I always make sure everyone's together. So it's nice to give other people those experiences and actually walk away and think, wow, there's something in this, you know. And you don't really need much other than the camera and just yourself, and asking the right questions is so important, because I hate that investigator part where, can you just move this, please? Can you just do it? No, ask a question and about them, and you'll get a response. And sometimes if you say, you know, if you died here of this, maybe you could bang to let us know you did, you know, just to give it, if it's easier for you, or let us know by voice if you can. Rather than the whole, you know, circus act, you know. No wonder why a lot of people don't get responses, because you're not really in it because you're asking the right questions for them. That's not human nature, is it? Because I won't just come to your house and go, guys, can you move that for me? Touch you to get out of my house. It's that you're demanding, and you got to realize these are once living people. So if you go in there and you talk to them like living people, and you try and build that connection and find out they're going to respond to you. If something makes sense to them, they're going to use that energy to try and get through to you. And if it doesn't, you won't. You'll get nothing, which is fine. But you just got to look at it that you've got to go with human compassion when you do this. They're not aliens. They're once living people.
And that's what really sets you apart, Tony. You approach it with love and compassion and humanity. So kudos to you for approaching it that way. And hopefully the other investigators will pick up on that too. It's very good of you to be respectful of them.
Yeah, for me, it'd just be natural. I don't. On social media for me nowadays is just a case of I love to put it up there. I'm just hoping it encourages people to go, because I'm never going to be able to prove to everyone in the world that there's something out there, because you'll always get people question. But at least go out there and search for yourself, and find out and try different things. Don't to get where I've got to. It didn't just happen. You've got to look within yourself as well. You can't, because a lot of people say, why is he capturing so much, but I'm not? But then it's like saying, why is he a better plumber than me? Why is he a better electrician than me? Because you put more energy into that. So, you can't just expect to walk into a building and get everything. It's about change and growth in yourself. And, when you switch off from a lot of things and the fear and all that other stuff, everything becomes more easier. It does. And if you're living in that, it's going to be a lot harder to sense and pick up on things and capture, because your energy is going to be lower. So again, it's about keeping your energy higher, away from everything, and then see what happens.
Tony, where are you going from here, man? What do you want to investigate or explore from here? What projects do you have coming up?
We've got loads of locations coming up in the new year, for the next year especially. But I'm just going to keep doing what's working at the moment. Obviously, we're going to be doing a podcast next year as well, like a bit like you guys, just inviting guests on about everything and anything, not just the paranormal, just the things that are just going to highlight stuff to the world, and it's just something different. And so there's that side to it. And yeah, for me, I don't really look into anything as in like, oh, I'm going to, I want to do this, because I always like to think I'm just going to let it happen. When it does, it's meant to be. And that it's worked so far. So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And hopefully, like I say, it will help other people, encourage them to go and find, well, this is strange, that's weird. And hopefully I get to meet more people in the future on events as well. And not always guaranteed to give them, that experience, but if I can, then I'm grateful that I can.
How do people get in touch with you if they have a haunting or something they need to talk to you about in regards to the paranormal?
I'm on Facebook, so I've got a Facebook page called Tony Ferguson Ghost Whisperer. I've got a TikTok account as well, where I just chuck up short clips of like disembodied voices and highlight what's being said so you guys can hear it. And obviously on the Facebook, I put long videos up, so I draw it out so you can see what's happening in real time. And same with YouTube. So there's a number of ways of reaching me, etc. When it comes to the paranormal.
Are you currently planning to do an ebook anytime soon about your adventures?
Oh, the only time I'm going to do that is when my chat is closed. I think there's so much more for me to do. I've got so much more to go out there and do. Starting at such a young age, so I want to continue it, because I don't want to be one of those that writes a book. I want to close that chapter. So, and there's so many things I've experienced in life and stuff, and I just want to make sure that I get as much in there as possible that helps awaken people.
Is there anything you want to tell the viewers at home, or leave them with any parting information or thoughts?
Just as I said to you on, Justin said he's skeptical about the paranormal, but just be skeptical about life and question everything. If it doesn't make sense, there's a reason it doesn't. And just try and go out there and spend as much time in nature. That's your home. That's where we're from. And just get out there and try and switch off from the noise. Sometimes we need to get away from the noise.
Yeah. Justin, Tony is really the next generation of ghost hunter. I really appreciate him as a guest today. Thank you for suggesting him. You've been amazing, Tony. I really like where your head and where your heart are at. Have you always been so thoughtful? Is that how you grew up? Did you have parents that sort of instilled that in you?
I just think I'm one of those people in general that I've always been switched off from life in general, like from school. So I've learned things differently from everyone else. So I didn't feel like I fit in at school. as I got older in general, I was one of those that just had to endow and do my own research and not just believe what other people say. So I guess that's what's made me more compassionate, because at the end of the day, I feel sorry for people, because again, I was once that person when I was a youngster. And when you switch off that, you've got to be more compassionate, because, you see things differently, and you just don't take things for granted as much as what other people do. And you just look at things in a different aspect, I suppose.
Tony,
Yeah.
I just got an email here, Tony, and someone asked, if you weren't a ghost hunter, what would you be doing?
Living on a desert island on my own, away from humanity. No, I'll be honest with you, I don't know, because I used to play football when I was younger. That was one of my, I got an injury, etc. So that ruined it for me. So it was quite a bad injury. And, I was going in the right directions for that, but then obviously the paranormal just caught my eye at the right time. So it would have definitely been to do with something with sport, personal trainer, which I am already now. It was always to do with something with sport. That's because of my ADHD. That's always leveled me out and kept my energy down. So yeah, we did it with sport for sure.
I think you're one of the finest ghost hunters that I've ever talked to. You're certainly fulfilling your purpose and following your path. And I just wish you nothing but success. And please come back anytime that you want to, Tony.
Yeah. See, in the future, if I'm sure I'll have more stories to tell and share and stuff. So yeah, it's nice to talk to guys that are on the same level as well, because you go to some podcasts and stuff and it's just a case of you show your clips and that's it. It's done. So there's been a nice sort of natural podcast where we can talk about life.
Well, yeah, it was nice getting to know you. And I respect your approach to how you definitely go into being a paranormal investigator. It's certainly much different than what, most of paranormal investigating that we're used to seeing is all on TV. And you definitely have like an almost anti-approach, to how those guys do it on TV. I can't stand Zach Baggins. It's just a couple little girls screaming every time they get scared of a shadow. And that's basically what their show is. And you are completely different. I know that you've been featured on TV shows. Have you thought of doing your own show? Or is that just something that will get in the way of what you're doing?
I've done a lot of TV work in general, as in like turned up to documentaries, etc. And I don't. One thing is with me is I'm very strict on how I work. I won't change the approach, and no one's going to make me do that. And unfortunately, they learned the hard way with a lot of stuff with the documentary, what I've done. And I don't like how they twist the narrative to make everything so scary, fear mongering. So I've done a fair few features with captures, but I've left it at that because I'm like, well, if it gets the evidence out there, that's fine. But I don't watch mainstream TV myself, so to put myself on it would be quite hypocritical, because again, tell lies to your television, and they're not going to put the real truth out there, and they won't, unfortunately, no matter what TV production it is, because like you just said, it's an entertainment thing, and unfortunately, this probably would scare people, but it's real. Whereas it is what it is in the package. It's entertainment. So it's funny. It's scary at times. It sells. It's acting. I'm not an actor, so it wouldn't suit me.
You're authentic, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have a team behind you? And
yeah, I've got
and
yeah,
I'm sure you're, like you said, you're pretty strict in how you do things, so people would have to kind of follow your lead. So tell me a little bit about your team before we go.
Yeah, I've got my wife, so she knows my how we worked together from day one. In fact, it started off with just us two in general, going around the haunted locations just with cameras. We've got Sue, who's joined us, etc. And she's basically, she was actually a big follower of mine, to be fair. She used to watch my footage. Met her on an event. She was amazed by some of the things that we actually experienced, and couldn't believe I get to meet you, etc. And we've got Adam as well. Adam was the one that had the experience at Shetland Prison, where the ghost capture was cool, because obviously he was amazed by when he had this was the camera when he said that I can't believe that you predict that was going to happen. And because there was two people in the circle saying, stay here. Get him out of the room. Get him out of the room. And he gave me a cuddle, and he said that when he cuddled me, he said he felt like it all went away. Like all the things that he felt, the horribleness and stuff. And when we did the documentary on TV, he said that it was almost like Tony was meant to be there, like, because we actually were on the wrong event, and he was running the event. We were supposed to stay over Chapter Month. It was the next week. It was my error, and he said, "No, you can stay. You've come all the way up here. You can, join us." Now, he said that I can't believe that you went to the wrong event, but that happened. You called the ghost, and I got affected, and obviously, and then we've become really good friends, and he's joined us and stuff, and he's experiencing some amazing stuff since, and he's become such an amazing investigator as well.
You also bring your dogs along too, I've noticed in some of your footage.
Yeah.
Are they sensitive as well?
All dogs are. At the end of the day, I do it as an experiment, because obviously when I hear the disembodied voices, you'll see the dog's reaction looking. So they're aware of something, and obviously I picked them up in my ears. So it's a case of like, we're actually talking about dogs now, they've just started. Oh, come here. So they are very, so every dog is. I've had many dogs, I have many sort of rescue dogs I've had over the years, and both my dogs are now.
Hey, Tony, has this happened to you? If you're walking on the beach, a random dog will run up to you and start licking you and just, loving on you. And the owner always says, "What? My dog never does that to anyone?"
Yeah.
Right. Happens to me all the time. Yeah.
Weird, but then it's like, okay, well, yeah. But then they sense energy, don't they? And to be fair, I think humanity needs to look at more animals like dogs and yeah, just show that sort of compassion towards each other, because they give out so much love. And yet, when you go to some countries that treat us so bad, you think, yeah, we got it all backwards. We got it very backwards.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, thank you for joining us. We've had a blast talking to you and learning from you. Keep up the good work, and definitely stay in contact with me.
Yeah.
And and we'll have you back on again. And thanks again for coming.
Hey, Justin, but before we let him go, Tony, have you sensed any paranormal activity either at my place or Justin's during the interview?
No.
Excellent. So I think we're all clear to take off, and yeah, excellent. Good. That's a good sign, right, Justin?
Absolutely. We're free and clear for the time being. So thanks again, Tony, for listening to the Barely Audible podcast. Join us next time.